Well, I think the first time I encountered the creature was Blueberry, the cereal.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction.
Frankenberry.
Frankenberry.
Here we are, and finally the junket. We made the movie. And we're at Netflix or Hulu, somewhere in the vicinity of Hulu. I think it's Tubi.
We're at the Amazon Fulfillment Center.
Yeah, the Fulfillment Center. Yeah. And here we are talking about the film. Yeah. So it's great to see you again and again and again.
Yeah, and you are?
Yes, it's a repeat experience. But, you know, to be finally here delivering the movie is great. I think that we started talking about this project completely unrelated on a meeting that was a general.
Yeah.
You came to the Bleak House.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Cuban food, and we started talking about our parents.
Yeah, they called me. They're just like, hey, you know, you're in town, because I was in town in LA, and they're like, you know, Guillermo's, he'd be open to having a general meeting with you.
Which I never do.
Yeah, I didn't. So then what made you? Yeah. I guess they must have called and been like, would you want to see it?
No, it was, you know, we wanted to work together for a while.
Yeah.
But I would have never dreamt that it would only be Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Monte Cristo, of the Count of Monte Cristo, which is another rehearsal towards Frankenstein that I wrote many years ago for Francis.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this and that, and all of a sudden I thought, yeah, the essence of Victor is in there. You know, there's brilliance, vulnerability, a little bit of tragedy, and then we had pork and beans, irresistible.
Yeah, I started crying over pork and beans and our fathers.
Yeah, and being fathers.
Yeah.
Inadequate
fathers.
Both roles.
And the fear of continuing it. And then, and then you looked up and you said, I think you need to be my Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah, and I like that we agreed. At some point in that conversation, we agreed that if we were going to do this together, we couldn't do it as the characters that we become publicly, a director, a visionary, this and that,
right,
or a star of this and that. It's like we were going to have to be very human.
Yeah, we were going to have to strip back all of that.
Yeah. And learn to show our defects.
Yeah, and you talked about, I remember you talked about, the idea of a character, that you were really interested in the idea of somebody that seems to be the protagonist that devolves into the antagonist of the film,
which is my own biography. You know, you start thinking you're the hero of your own story. It's like Dickens says, whether I'll be the hero of my own story or the villain, you know, and you end up being both. And I think Victor, the way we built it, it has not quite been built like that. You have the mad scientist, you have the benign scientist, or you have the sociopathic scientist with Peter Cushing on the hammers, but one that is both, that is both the beatific guy and the evil guy, out of envy and pettiness. I think that was the challenge.
Yeah. I mean, you also said something that was really interesting about, I think it's a Hitchcock thing, which is the two questions: when is he going to stop, and when is he going to start?
Yeah, the only two dramatic states of a character are, when will he finally start? Which is, for example, Shane with Alan Ladd. All the violence inflicted in the town, you know at one point the gunslinger is going to go, all right. Or the other one, when he's going to stop.
Yeah,
when will he stop being that cruel or that unfaithful or that greedy? You know, and those are the two questions for a character to be interested.
And it feels like Victor's particularly, both.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, it's the second where he just kind of goes and won't stop. I mean, I remember we were filming. It's the thing that I probably rehearsed the most for, because it's a monologue in the medical, hall, right?
The hearing area.
Yeah, where we first see Victor basically at his peak, and he's
pure certainty,
full God mode. And it's this long ream of dialogue, basically a monologue that he gives. And I had even learned it, and I've done all sorts of techniques and learned it in iambic pentameter, and forced it into this rhythm just for myself. And I think we were shooting it over a week.
Yeah.
I think it was like
4 days.
4 days, 4 or 5 days, And I think it was the third day. And, you know, I'd done it quite a few times, and I thought, maybe I should be more tired or more frenzied. And
I remember that moment.
My family had come to visit, and they left.
Yeah.
And then it was lunch break. And then my trainer at the time, he had this thing called hape. that I had taken like 2 years before. It was like an energy thing. It's like a nose, like almost like salts, like smelling salts. I was like, you know what? Maybe it'll make me look a little tweaky, and I'll have one. Yeah. He's like, you sure you want? So I was like, yeah. He's like, this is a new one that I have. I was like, great. I sprayed it, and he's like, just don't inhale it. And I immediately inhaled it. And I was like, what happens? He's like, it's okay. Just have a seat. I was like, okay. And then I remember Jerry, the dialogue coach, and suddenly I looked at him. There was 3 of him, and I was like, "Oh God, oh God!" And I just started throwing up profusely. And then the knock on the train. I was like, "They're ready for you." And then I just remember like going down on my hands and knees, and the trainer's like, "Maybe this will help." And he blows this like meditation whistle. I was like. And I'm just like, and it's like, okay, come on. And so I was like, I can do it.
I remember.
And I walked on the set, and they're like, okay. And let's rehearse it. And it's like hundreds of extras and like all this smoke, and you're sitting there, and I start to do the lines, and I can't remember. It's the first time I can't remember the lines, and I go, Guillermo, I think I need to sit down. You go, get out of here, go. And so I went back, and I took like a half hour, and I finally relaxed, and then I came back, and we finished it, and it was just a reminder to me of like, you don't have to reach outside of yourself
anything
for something. There's this idea of like, I just need something to make me better. And it's like, you don't need to do that. It was a great lesson.
I remember that day because when we talked, you said, what if I fail? What if I do this before? And I said, you can fail.
Yeah.
Everything was built for you. We made this suit tailored for you. But you still do it.
Yeah.
And I think that is we have a few years apart, and I think that you lose that fear the older you get.
Yeah.
And I saw you attempting that, and I think it was the only time.
Yeah.
After that, it was just you and I.
Yeah, yeah. It was it was like I needed to do that. It was almost like an ayahuasca trip where I needed to just like vomit
during
lunch on my lunch break to like vomit out all the fear and be like, you don't need to reach for something. It's all just right
all
here.
In there. It's all in you.
Fucking chill.
And I think the beauty of this movie is that and people say all art is self-portraiture, right? But it's so for everyone involved.
Yeah.
You have to align all those self-portraitures to make sense.
Yeah.
Mia is Elizabeth. Jacob is the creature in many ways. Not the Jacob people perceive, but the Jacob that he perceives himself as. And it's very beautiful. Yeah. You don't look for anything outside. Mm-hmm. The funny thing about a movie like this or a project like this is I encountered Boris Karloff on a Sunday after church, and he became my new messiah. I said, that's me, I'm him, and he's my savior. In a way that was purely instinctive. I was 7 years old. But I thought, now I understand when people talk about finding a savior. But then 4 years later, I bought on a paperback, I bought the novel. I said, well, it's the novel. I was 11. I said, it's the novel of the film. Mm-hmm. Then I said, the novel was first, and nobody has ever done it. Because I read it and I said, this is not the movie I saw. Mm-hmm. And I was shooting Super 8s at age 8. And I said, I'll make it on Super 8. I'll make this Frankenstein on Super 8. And then I thought it's a good way to talk about my father and this and that. But I found a lot of, through the years, I found a lot of biography of Shelley, of Mary Shelley, in the book. It follows the itinerary that she had when she eloped at 16 with Percy Shelley. And they go through the same ports than some of the moments in the film, in the novel, to talk about miscarriages and loss and the loss of a mother, or it is all biographical for her. And the idea of the fusion of life and death through her miscarriages. That's the creature. Yeah. The creature is every child she lost. And being birthed out of her mother, the specter of war, the brevity of life, and the fact that it's cruel, blah, blah, blah. All these things are in there. And I thought, I'll make it a biography for me too. I'm very young. And it's become that through the decades.
But that's what the interesting thing is, like the way to really honor it is to approach it the same way she did.
Yes.
As opposed to just trying to
revere it.
Revere it or do an interpretation of it or even communicate an idea of it. It's, well, what if I come at it the same way she did, which is, how is it a personal biography?
And life. Yeah. Like the difference between a taxidermy piece that you do with reverence or to display a living animal, because you really give it life through yourself, is what, if you make a classic and you say, oh, I'm making a classic, it becomes this stuffy, pastel-colored reverence piece, but this is alive and modern and happening. When did you encounter the book, by the way?
Well, I think the first time I encountered the creature was Blueberry, the cereal. That was my first introduction. Frankenberry.
Blueberry is the blue one.
Blueberry is the blue one. Right. Sorry, Frankenberry is the pink one. Count Chocula, yeah, it was Frankenberry. My mistake. Frankenberry was my first. He seemed really nice and pink and delicious.
But that's a
Dingleberry was a different. That's a Scottish cereal, right? Yeah. Also delicious.
With oat milk.
The first one was. I think really the first one that really kind of registered was De Niro for me. Yeah. I just remember seeing the trailer and being like, "Whoa, this is crazy! I can't believe that's Robert De Niro!" And like jumping over the ice thing with his, the trench coat flying out. Yeah. It was fascinating, but it never really seeped in so much. But I remember after we had that fateful meeting, you're like, "I want you to be Victor." You gave me the book, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and the Tao Te Ching. Like, read these two things. Why both of those together, you think?
Well, I think that
I have my ideas too.
Well, the Tao says basically things are what they are, right? And to me, the relationship with life that I tried to put in the movie is the heart will be broken, but brokenly live on. That's the end of the movie, which means whatever it is, and you stay alive, which is the same wisdom in the book of Job. In the Bible, things are because they're designed by a carpenter, by a master that you don't understand. The Tao says, he who tries to use the master's tools will cut himself, and all these things are pertinent to Frankenstein, to the novel and the experience of making the movie. I think that one of the things we connected over that dinner was our Latinness. Because obviously the shadow of the father looms differently in a Latin family, I believe, and
the patriarchal thing is so
very
strong.
In a very matriarchal society too.
Yeah.
So I and the melodrama.
Yeah.
And the drama of being blind to those flaws, is very Mexican. In fact, I recommended you a Mexican movie called The Black Sheep with Pedro Infante, which is a father and a son story.
Yeah, and he's just such an incredible villain.
He's an incredible.
It's so funny.
And he's remarkably charming.
Yeah, and we used one, I remember I used one of those things because he'd always, like, when he would walk by his son, just push him out of the way.
Yeah.
And so we used that one moment when Jacob comes back to ask for a bride, and I just kind of walk by him and push him away. That was our little
monster.
A little nod to
flesh, a grave, a home. Those moments for me are things that you determine only from a Latin culture. The swarthy Catholicism of the film. But I think the sort of pageantry of Catholicism, which verges on the operatic, the intensity of emotions, and the fact that Victor is different than his father. His mother and him have a darker skin, black eyes, black hair, dark, complexion, and the father never accepts him.
Yeah.
He always says, well, that's not my son. My son is this blonde little boy that I call William, and that makes them Cain and Abel,
and it's also, that's why we talk about it being a story of outsiders, and I think we also, something that I talked to you a lot about in that first meeting, which was like feeling like an outsider from the moment that we came from Guatemala to this country, and constantly moving around and always feeling like a bit of an other, always, and then even getting started in this industry, in Florida and South Florida, only being brought in for the gangster or this role or the traditional kind of Latino roles, and how that kind of fed into this kind of myopic view of like excellence. Well, the only way I can, succeed is by being excellent, and better than everyone else at this thing, and no matter what it costs. That was something that definitely I think fed into the.
And the Victor that I really believe would be a fresh Victor is a Victor that had swagger and sensuality and flair, and he was capable of charming an entire medical school in believing in him for a while, or an investor like Orlander. And I thought, I think that the reclaiming that for not a British actor, not an Anglo actor, but reclaiming it, we talked on the set, and I said it's not an accident that our Victor is played by, Oscar Isaac Hernandez.
Yeah.
And we reclaim some of that energy.
Yeah, exactly. I remember at one point you're like, a European would never make a movie like this. He's like the way that you were shooting it with these huge sets, and also the way you would direct sometimes. You'd be like, I need the Maria Cristina.
The telenovela turn.
The time where you walk.
Maria Cristina, you can't do that.
Yeah, where it's like you have to walk from like his left shoulder past him, and then you stop, but you turn back.
You turn back. Yeah. Which is when you do it with you're talking to Mia, and it's just pure.
Yeah.
And you turn. I would see attraction on that thing.
Maria Cristina, no.
Yeah, it's like a telenovela.
Yeah. But you're like, you have to make this Mexican boy very happy. Please do it for me.
Yeah. I think we can. When people say, "What's Mexican about your movies?" I said, "Me."
Yeah.
What else you want? I mean, I think you cannot deny what you are, who you are.
And what moves you.
And what moves you in any act of artistic expression ever,
No matter how base.
No matter how base or vile. Yeah. There were three things that were important in this film to tackle. One is the Catholic fact that God and Jesus are a father and son story, primary, where God sends his son to experience pain and death. Why? What does it do? And the creature becomes a sort of Messiah to expiate the sins of his father and get him forgiveness and all that. That was number one. The Catholic element of this film is very, very strong. Lapsed Catholic, but Catholic nevertheless. The second was the father to son, son to father, sort of lineage of pain. Because when one of the things we do when we're flawed, and I am flawed, is you are so busy feeling like a hurt son that you turn into a father and you don't realize it. And then you have to tell your kids, I am your father. And I just realized it, and you have to apologize. And regret is what Victor learns in this film. He has no regrets until he understands the other. And understanding the other right now is absolutely urgent.
Yeah.
And the final element, which I think is fabulous for me, is Victor has never been played as the antagonist and protagonist at the same time, because every tyrant believes themselves to be a victim, which is also very now. And I think those elements we understood we were going to require to be very open about our defects, but also for you to make the character do things that were truly despicable.
Yeah, to be able to blind myself so much that this feels like I am entitled to do this because of either I'm a victim of something that entitles me to do it.
If I felt pain, everybody will feel pain.
Yeah. But it makes me think of T-Bone Burnett. He has this song where there's a lyric that says, everyone wants peace, but no one wants to surrender.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
And so that the end being this moment of surrender, which allows them to both become human.
Yeah, and I think that the moment we're in also speaks about people that are, every character in this movie is alone. Elizabeth is alone, William is alone, Victor is alone, the creature is alone, Harlander is alone.
Yeah.
But Victor is the type of character that is so lonely that he needs masses of people agreeing with him. Which can be political or artistic, but we see it all the time. People that broadcast emotions to millions, thinking that brings empathy or that brings fulfillment, and it doesn't. It's what he's pursuing is so hollow and so fruitless that I think that's a real warning. When people say Frankenstein is anti-science, I don't think so. It's anti-hubris. That's why the parallel with the captain is the important parallel.
Yeah, and also why it ends with this moment of, of the creature, because of this moment of compassion and moment of forgiveness, is able to be compassionate to others, to a whole society of people that are also headed down the wrong direction. So it ends in this moment of hope, which the book doesn't necessarily do that.
No, I think the book was responding to many, many things, including the fact that doom was not seen. I mean, doom was such a worthy thing to tackle in an era that was talking about the age of reason and in the beginnings of industrialization, the beginnings of modernity, you know? And they said, what if we lose? What if we all lose? That was a very romantic notion. Now I think that, for me, the urgent message is, what if we could all forgive each other into existing? What if we could all be flawed? What if we could all allow everybody to be flawed? And those are the urgent. When Elordi does Pinocchio, Elordi is concerned with the unification of Italy. The language becoming one, the country behaving into becoming one. That's not my concern when I do my Pinocchio. I'm concerned about disobedience and obedience and fascism. And the same is, I cannot articulate what Mary Shelley articulated. I have to articulate what's urgent now. When you tackle a movie as big as Frankenstein, I felt it before, Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth. You feel, I hope this connects with someone and makes their life either different or better in some way. Has that ever happened to you with a song or a movie or a book or?
So many times. So many things, actually. With this, with Frankenstein, there was a song I found that I would start to listen to. I would listen to all the time. It was called Poison Tree. And it's this really beautiful song, and the voice, it's a female voice, but it almost sounds like a child singing about wanting to become a poisoned tree. And there was something about that resonated with me with Victor so much, because it sounded like this heartbroken child that wanted to die, which feels like that's what Victor was. And that's actually the creature that he creates is the child that comes back to forgive him, you know? So it's funny how those little kind of totems I find and hold on to, and I would listen to it maybe once a week while we were shooting the film, and it would just reorient me. That was a big one. But originally, I think the very first movie that kind of changed my mind about what was possible as an actor, even before I even knew I wanted to be an actor, was the movie Legend. It was Ridley Scott's Legend.
Really?
And it was recognizing that the guy playing the devil was the same guy from Clue, Tim Curry.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that was the same actor. And I remember I wrote a poem about a vampire that was dressed just like she's dressed when in that black outfit.
With the black lips.
With the black lips and the black dress that comes down to here. And it just made such a huge impression on me, that movie. And it's what kind of started to move me towards like, oh, there's a place where you can be both the butler in a thing and then the devil in another thing. Yeah, the Lord of Darkness. And so that was one that like really like switched me on.
You know, that happened to me with Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
I was, my uncle and I went to movies. I was very young, and he would take me to all the movies my mother or my grandmother didn't want him to take me to. We would go see a movie called Raw Meat, which I still love. It's called Deathline also. Great movie, the variation of Beauty and the Beast in horror. And then he said, let's go see it. He took me to 2001. And he said, do you understand what it's about? And I said, yeah, it's about evolution. And he said, well, I'll take you to Taxi Driver. So
see what he says about that.
And this is very pertinent to Frankenstein. The study of isolation.
Yeah.
Of a character that you start following, and then by virtue of the narrative you identify with. And then he does incredibly despicable things in his own universe. But you can't help but follow him.
Right.
I felt fascinated. I said, I never thought movies were like this. I thought movies were good guys, bad guys, and the good guys winning.
Yeah.
And when I saw Taxi Driver, I understood there is a whole world to this medium. And I was very young. That I may reach with my Super 8 films one day.
I mean, I didn't have Super 8, but I had 8mm VHS ones that I started to make movies with as well. And I think I even sent you one. It was one that I made with my dad.
Oh, back then,
called It Lives, where I was the monster that I get killed by love when someone shows me compassion, which my sister played, which was hilarious because in the shot you can see my sister being like.
Acting.
Yeah, like so annoyed that she's being made to act.
It's so funny because the first movie I made, I made Super 8s then, and then I came back. I stopped making them for like 7 or 8 years. And then when I was about 13, 14, I did one again, and I was a monster. And it was a monster that crawled out of the men's toilet in my high school.
Skibbity toilet.
Skibbity toilet. So, but my sister was not in it.
I'm going to end it there.
Okay.
That's a perfect ending.
That's great. Oh, thank you. Wow, that was fun.